Honestly, me and Heartbreaky are one of the best moms on this app. Y'all just don't see that. Y'all see what she says, right? Oh, she's a bad mom. But at the end of the day, do I have any charges on me? No, I don't. My kids have never been taken away from me, thank God.
Parenthood is a virtue. Whether you have kids, older or younger, planned or unplanned, the moment you become a parent is the moment your life truly becomes for somebody else. Every move you make from that point on will in some way affect your child, your career, where you live, and of course the way you conduct yourself towards and around your loved ones. No matter how big or how small your family may be, whether you stay with your partner long term or end up going your separate ways, I'm sure all types of parents would agree it takes a village to foster a safe and nurturing environment for a child. But what happens when said village includes the most gossip-hungry crevices of the internet, TikTok fan pages, and a seemingly never-ending revolving door of convicted murderers? What about when said career involves drunkenly humiliating yourself on daily live streams? What happens when you let your children's needs be eclipsed by your unquenchable desire for likes and attention? I think I know just the person who can tell us. TikTok star Ash Trevino had the internet in a chokehold during the latter half of 2024 going into early 2025. Her face was plastered across millions of timelines, her name a trending topic worldwide, and a commentary YouTube couldn't get enough of her sufficiently dysfunctional existence. But over the past couple of months, something has shifted. Ash Trevino has disappeared. Or rather, she's fallen off, which might as well be the same thing if your career is predicated on people talking about you non-stop. Today, I intend to track the rise and fall of Ash Trevino's short-lived but chaotic stardom. And of course, the vast whirlwind of controversy she spun for herself, the petty scandals all the way up to the more serious allegations. This is the tragedy of a mother who alienated herself from everyone in her life, all for a few drops of clout that she couldn't even sustain longer than a year. We've talked about a lot of terrible influencer parents, but after weeks of researching Ash, I think I can say with absolute certainty that this is the worst mom in TikTok history.
And one of them I slept with her husband. No one said it would ever be easy being a mom. I seen his BB. He's seen the new. Oh, you want to say that? Yeah.
But to make sure the editors stay fed, it's time for a sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, stand by for a message from Incognito. I'm sure you're well aware at this point of the harrowing threat data brokers pose to your online privacy. They scan the internet for your personal information to sell for a profit, collecting all kinds of sensitive data ranging from names, addresses, and even social security numbers, which can easily end up in the hands of scammers and fraudsters. On top of all of that, it's near impossible to track down and control who exactly has access to your information once it's disseminated. But that is where Incognito comes in. Incognito reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests that they remove your personal data, and handles any of their objections themselves, which saves you the time and hassle involved with confronting these entities. The best part is, the whole process is automated. Incognito's custom removals feature allows users to request removal from any data broker not yet in their automated process, and from other websites where they can legally compel removal. Incognito also keeps your data off the market by doing repeated removals, taking it down if it shows up again. All you need to do is create an account, grant them the right to work for you, and kick back and watch Incognito work its magic. I was able to make removal requests to 228 data brokers immediately upon signing up, and in just a couple hours, 121 have already been completed. There's no reason not to give it a shot. Incognito is available risk-free for 30 days, which means you can try it out for yourself and get a full refund if you aren't completely happy with their service. But of course you will be, because who wants their private information floating around on the internet? Take your personal data back right now by clicking the link down below or heading to incognito.com/Jobbery and using code Jobbery at checkout to get 60% off an annual plan. 60% off! That's more than 50. Doesn't get much better than that, I'm pretty sure. And if you don't, my editors won't eat, so it'll be on you. Huge thanks once again to Incognito for sponsoring this video, and now back to the story. Born January 17th, 1989 in the great state of Texas, Ashley Trevino Lopez, aka Ashley Garcia, aka Ash the Inmate Hopper, aka Ash Trevino, has not had much of her upbringing publicized on the internet, which is significant considering there's pretty much nothing she won't post about nowadays. We don't know much about her life pre-TikTok infamy, but what we do know is that Ash graduated from Innis High School in 2007 and married her then boyfriend, Israel Grez, in 2008, before having her eldest daughter, Haley, in 2009 at the age of 19. Her youngest daughter, Eviana, would be born in 2011 when Ash was just 21. Ash would later separate from Grez 4 years later in March 2015, accusing her partner of infidelity, alleging Grez had gone behind her back and started a new family with a different woman while they were still married. The divorce wouldn't be finalized until June 2017, by which point Ash had already been official with another man for about 6 months. In fact, she already had a whole tattoo of her new beau's initials by the time she and Grez had officially separated, which is pretty unfortunate considering this relationship would only last about 18 months, with Ash putting herself back on the market as a single woman in June 2018. Apart from the spontaneous decision to permanently alter her skin with the likeness of a man she had only been dating for half a year, Ashley's life in the 2010s could be described as messy but mundane. Her Instagram from around this time is made up of mostly family photos and Snapchat selfies, along with the occasional venting about Israel Grez, particularly when it came to their co-parenting, exposing Grez for not paying child support and lamenting what little time he spent with their kids compared to the children he allegedly fathered outside of their marriage. As teenagers, the girls would make the claim that their father's side of the family wasn't as present as their mothers, and in particular their maternal grandparents, telling podcaster Camilla Araujo earlier this year that it was only after their father was diagnosed with cancer that they started speaking to him again. With the passing of Israel Grez in June 2024, they seem to have not had any reason to speak to the wider Grez family since the funeral.
And they haven't reached out at all?
They have not reached out.
They haven't texted your phone?
Have they texted y'all?
Is that something you guys desire? Like, do you desire to have a relationship with your dad's side of the family?
No, because I'm not close with them. And even if I was, it'd be kind of awkward because I've never been that close with them, like, since I was little, obviously. But ever since I grown up, they never texted or nothing. And then once I found out about my dad, that's when they started coming and talking to us. And then after the funeral, nothing.
Despite sometimes insisting that she raised 2 kids alone, we know from Ash's other public statements that her parents played a significant role in the upbringing of the children she had with Grez, even referring to her eldest daughter as a grandparent's baby, due to their help with her in particular.
I'm not a bad mom. My kids were never taken from me. I still have custody of my kids. They're spending the night at their grandparents' house. Why? Because they want to and they can. Just like your kid can do whatever he wants. He can go stay at his mom's house. He can go stay at his grandma's house. My kids can do the same. I'm down the street. They need me. I'm right there. Don't compare. The little one does live with me, but recently she went back for a bit. But Eviana now, she's easier to parent than Haley. And she listens to me way more than Haley listens to me. Haley's gotten so spoiled by my parents that that's the reason why she's over there. Of course, you know, whenever you're kind of raised by your mom and your grandparents, you kind of fall into like a grandparent's baby.
Ash has never lost custody of her daughters, but those who have already called CPS on her have only succeeded in bringing trouble to her parents' doors, not hers, because it seems they're in charge of keeping them for now. But we're getting so far ahead of ourselves here. To understand how Ash became the most hated mom on all of TikTok, we need to stay on the 2010s for a bit longer, as it would be in August of 2019 that the first domino in the Ash Trevino universe would fall. She was getting married again. At just 17 years old, Isaiah Gonzalez was sentenced to 45 years in prison on 1 count of aggravated robbery and 1 count of murder, with an additional count of arson to the tune of 20 years on July 5th, 2011, due to the role he played in the robbery and murder of gas station owner Mohammed Hashemi on the 18th of April, 2010. According to news reports, reports and court documents, Gonzalez, just 15 years old at the time, conspired with 3 others to rob Hashemi while he was heading to the bank to deposit earnings from his business. Gonzalez, armed with a Cobra Model 11 9mm pistol, was driving one of the 2 cars used to trap Hashemi. While Gonzalez didn't pull the trigger himself, he obviously played a key role in assisting the murder, along with ditching the man's body and joking that the father of 7 was for the coyotes, according to the victim's daughter.
He drove while my dad was dead in the car. He was the one driving. Took my dad out, threw him in the ditches, and was like, oh, well, the coyotes can eat him.
The 4 perpetrators stole the cash that Hashemi had intended to deposit and burned down his minivan, along with his clothing, splitting the money between the 4 of them, which was then used to purchase cocaine, gambling, and for Gonzalez to replace the phone he had used to plan the crime. The murder weapon was also found stored in Gonzalez's home upon a police search. Gonzalez is projected for release in 2055 and is eligible for parole in 2032, while Mohammed Hashemi is survived by his widow and his 7 children. Ash Trevino announced her engagement to Gonzalez on August 10th, 2019, making Gonzalez 24 and Ash 30. As she informs his mother in the comments of her engagement announcement, "Don't act up or you'll get snatched up." What is there to snatch up? Ashley snapped her wedding pictures alone on November 7th, 2019, and judging by the tattoos she would later post, the lovely couple seems to have officially tied the knot the day before on November 6th. It was here that she began taking her daughters, who were just 10 and 8 years old at the time, for regular trips up to the prison to see their incarcerated new stepfather, along with christening their marriage with another round of tattoos in May of 2020, which included the cover-up of her ex's initials. She would even refer to Isaiah as daddy to her younger daughter in the captions of these prison visits, allowing a convicted murderer who took the life of another girl's father in cold blood to hold her 8-year-old child. Writing on Instagram in late 2019, quote, "Just a daddy and his baby girl. It's sad when she runs back for one more hug before we leave." In case you couldn't already predict, this blossoming love wouldn't last forever, as the cracks would already begin to show at the beginning of 2020, when Ash informed her audience she would not be going to see her husband of 3 months for the first time in 20 weeks, going on to instead share the post that was petitioning for Gonzalez to gain early release, seeing as he had received an education behind bars while also recently becoming a stepdad, which may raise some questions as to why exactly he decided to marry Ashley in the first place. Ash would then go on to casually announce her divorce from Gonzalez on October 21st, 2020, dropping off the papers to finalize the separation in January 2021.
And there it goes. Our divorce should be finalized within 30 days, hopefully.
It's important to note that at this point in time, Ash wasn't a very well-known figure online. It wasn't until after she rose in prominence that onlookers began to research her past and ask some pretty pertinent questions regarding the age gap between her and Isaiah. When new TikTok followers combed through her Instagram and found this post from March 2020 depicting, as she states, a then 12-year-old Gonzalez attending 18-year-old Ash's church graduation party in 2007. She blatantly writes, quote, "Yep, my husband's sitting on the front bench of our church at my senior church party in 2007. He's always been a part of my life since he was 12 years old. I might have even took that pic of him. Ha ha. Ha ha. What do you mean ha ha? 18 and 12? Hashtag 2007, hashtag husband, hashtag he's always been handsome." Alright. The concern here from fans made sense. Here was Ashley very openly admitting in 2020 to already knowing Isaiah when he was just a boy, which was coupled with clips like this one, where she seems to assert that he had been a family friend ever since the Gonzalez family began attending her church, when Isaiah was just 9.
He was a family friend. His family always has been friends, hey? They literally, I met him when he was 9. Yes, I met him when he was 9. They started going to our church when he was 9. Okay, mind you, I'm 6 years older than him.
Ash explains that on the one hand, she didn't have that kind of communication with the child, but also admits she cried when he was locked up and gave the 15-year-old her parents' address so they could write to each other while he was in prison. She would have been a married 21-year-old at this point.
I knew of him because they came to our church when he was 9. I was 15. We didn't do nothing. We had no kind of communication like that or nothing. When he got locked up, I cried because he was only 15. Well, me and one of his friends, with his mom's permission, went to go visit him. And I left the kids with my parents. It was behind the TV because you had to pick up a phone and it was a screen. And so I was just like, hey, how are you doing? You know, and he's like, I'm good. He's like, I want to write you. I said, okay, well, here's my parents' address. He wrote me to my parents' house. I still have the letters to this day. And then I stopped communicating with him. And 2019, so I write him on JPay and he writes me through a handwritten snail letter. And that's when we started writing from March until August. Then in August, I put my phone on so he can call me. And then he calls me. And I'm like, hey, I missed you, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, I missed you too. And then that's whenever I said, hey, I want to get your name tatted on me. And he's like, well, why don't you do it legit and just take my full last name? And I said, what? And he's like, yeah, why don't you marry me? And I said, we just reconnected.
Despite them supposedly not speaking to one another, Ash states that she told Isaiah she missed him. This T-page also posted a clip of Ash talking about Isaiah in 2019, just before they got married. This clip was posted after she had recently downloaded TikTok and clearly wanted her new followers to get to know her a bit better. So she begins to introduce us to her grand love story. In this clip, she says they'd known each other for 13 years, which would make him 11 when they first met, not 9, but that they couldn't be together because they were living different lives back then. After all, she was still with the father of her children, and by her own admission, Isaiah was a little younger than her, which was, quote, a bit of a situation.
He is younger than me though, so, you know, that was a little bit of the situation, but I was also with my kid's dad.
Yeah, actually, I guess you could say that. She then goes on to claim that they had lost contact for 9 years when he had been incarcerated for 10, which would mean she had effectively spent a year writing to the teen before finally ceasing communication. She also states here that she told him she was attracted to him first and that they eventually got engaged because after just a few months of letters, she was planning on getting his name tattooed, and he suggested going all the way and just getting married. Why not, right? Truly an epic romance of biblical proportions, a classic story for the ages, a family united and complete for about 18 months. Despite their eventual separation, it does seem Isaiah still holds a piece of Ash's heart to this very day, so much so that when two of Hashimi's daughters, each with their own sizable TikTok followings, got wind of Ash defending a co-conspirator in their father's murder this past February, they weren't too happy to see it. Zara Hashimi, in particular, had just begun to move into the TikTok streaming space when she began to chat casually with a creator named Phoenix, a live stream interviewer, around February 26. During this stream, they discussed Camilla's interview with Ash that had just come out, which is when Hashimi mentions that they had only recently found out that Ash was his ex-wife, and that the two had gotten into it on a prior stream. Ash would claim that the Hashimi sisters were just obsessed with her.
She is as obsessed with me and Heffa. The reason I said he needs to be free is because he's been in there since he was 15. He made a mistake at 15.
Which didn't exactly bode well for a large family who had lost a father and certainly wasn't a line you'd want peddled to the tens of thousands of people that regularly tune in to the Ash Trevino show. During the girls' conversation with Phoenix, an account that sounded suspiciously like Ash began to pipe up in the comments and tried to join the stream. Ash is then invited onto the live where she makes an offhand comment referring to Zara as the guy's daughter.
Zara, I know you are the guy's daughter, right?
Taking obvious offense,
No.
Zara begins to tell Ash that her father's name is Muhammad Hashimi, and
Muhammad Ali Hashimi. He's not just a guy.
Ash doesn't listen, of course.
Okay, well, I don't know his name. I didn't know his name.
I just told you. No.
They talk over each other for a few minutes before Ash rage quits the stream. Once she's off, Ash decides to fire up a stream of her own and doesn't hold back. Trigger warning, things get pretty fucking racist.
Her dad deserved it, because your dad deserved it. Then your dad deserved everything he got, and that's why your dad's not here right now. How do you know that he wasn't the one behind the Twin Towers? He tried to do the Twin Towers, bro. There was a lot of Mohammeds that were in the Twin Towers.
In the middle of her little unhinged rant, one of Ash's daughters comes into the room and begins to plead with her mother to turn off the stream. Ash responds by muting the live and instructing her child to leave the room before getting to the worst of the bile that she's about to spew. And although we are jumping forward in the timeline here, I think it's important to highlight Ash's repulsive behavior in this stream, as her handling of Zara Hashimi does offer a few key insights into the way she approaches pretty much every relationship in her life. Factor number 1. She was was drinking. Ash makes no effort to hide her proclivity for alcohol, broadcasting her intoxication while drinking at home and at bars on a regular basis. Factor 2. Her teen daughters often have to try and be the voice of reason for her when she's flying off the rails. Factor 3. As you can see, she isn't afraid of deploying vile racism in the midst of an argument. Whether it's geared towards other Hispanic people, black people, brown people, it doesn't really matter. It's all fair game to Ash. Here's a clip of Ash teaching her daughter racial slurs.
And a border bunny is Mexicans. And a fucking is black people.
And here she is being annoyed that a dental office got sold to what she calls Indian owners.
Then we got Indian owners. Yes, I said that. And I chose to leave because they were Indians, and I'm not working under no Indians.
And lastly, Ash has a habit of placing the objectively awful men that she's attracted to on a moral pedestal. She gets involved very intensely, very quickly, and will often excuse and downplay the crimes of her partners, minimizing their actions and laughing at the idea that there were victims involved, despite her proclivity for murderers. I mean, she has no problem openly mocking the daughter of Isaiah's victim to her face. Like I said, we still have a long way to go, and all I want you to do right now is keep these themes in mind as we move through Ashley's trajectory up to 2025, as she gains infamy for the never-ending onslaught of inmate boyfriends she recruits, her affinity for indecent exposure, and arguments with all of the friends and colleagues that Ash Trevino will meet over the course of her tenure as a streamer. Because it's in 2019 and 2020 that Ashley, having watched her eldest daughter move her modest but growing musically following over to TikTok, figured that her new life as a prison wife would set her up for a thriving career as an online influencer. While Ashley didn't truly explode into the TikTok scene until 2024, she was already making her way through the interstate prison system. At this point, she was still working full-time as a receptionist at a dentist office and streaming from her car in her scrubs, in between filling her colleagues in on both hyper-online drama and her prison wife antics. Ash's content throughout 2024 is mostly centered on her activity as a person who exclusively dates incarcerated men. Already, she was beginning to develop a habit for cycling through inmates at an impressive pace, to the point that it became easy for her parents and her growing TikTok audience to lose track of the number and order of men that Ash would purport to be romantically involved with. To attempt to log the order and time frame of each and every one of these inmates would take more hours than anybody has, so for the purposes of this video, we'll focus instead on the most documented cases, starting with her third husband and the man whose last name she continues to bear, Noe Trevino.
Abilene man has learned his fate after being charged with murder.
We've been following the case since it began on Monday. 25-year-old Noe Trevino was charged with stabbing Lewis Maston to death outside a nightclub in 2015.
Originally charged for one count of injury to a child in 2011, Noe Trevino would later find himself in a violent altercation on March 29th, 2015, outside Club Old School located in Abilene, Texas. Having left the neighboring club, Nueve Luna, with his family, an argument erupted between the Trevino cousins and the grandchildren of Lewis Maston, who approached the group and attempted to prevent a fight from breaking out. Amidst the scuffle, Maston pushed Trevino, who in turn stabbed Maston 10 times, in an attack so sudden that his grandchildren, who witnessed the events unfold in real time, failed to even realize their grandfather had been stabbed until they saw blood running down his shirt. Trevino was 24 at the time of the stabbing and is due for release in 2040, with his parole currently set to 2028. Now, there's a little confirmed information as to when Ash Trevino was actively married to Noe. We do see another round of solo wedding photos, which indicate they wed in April 2022, while by June 4th, 2024, she had already moved on to our next character, stating that she was going to get a divorce from Noe and didn't need his permission to do so.
Here in Texas, I can file them with my county and they just send Noe the notification. Noe won't have to sign nothing or anything. I don't need his permission to file for divorce. I can just file for divorce and then they will notify him once I'm divorced.
The main content that exists concerning Noe within the Ashverse is that she obviously decided to keep his last name, claiming that she's going to divorce him and then not for whatever reason, as well as her apparently arguing with him, going so far as to wish an assault upon her husband.
I wish my husband would fucking fall and break his fucking leg, okay? I wish he would fucking get raped.
The only confirmation of when she actually left him would come in October 2024, where she would claim that they had part ways nearly 2 years prior to the day she was streaming, indicating that they had begun to split just 4 months after tying the knot. Ash would also claim that the court had denied her filing back in June because he failed to make an appearance.
I call and I'm like, hey, is my divorce final? And they said no, because your husband didn't show up. I was like, my husband's incarcerated. Y'all knew that. We had the paper notarized. And they were like, well, he didn't show up. You have to refile.
One of the many roadblocks of tracking Ash's relationship timeline is just how quickly she'll jump from one relationship to the next. She'll often replace one boyfriend with another within 24 hours of breaking up. Her messiness when it comes to these incarcerated men would take her into the arms of her first inmate, who would be released later into their relationship. A man who shared Noe's same unit by the name of Jesse Martinez. Despite the launch into infamy that her relationship with Jesse offered her, the nature of Jesse Martinez's crimes aren't as freely available as some of the other men in Ash Trevino's life. We're not exactly sure what Jesse did to wind up in jail, but we do have an idea of his charges, which Ash makes sure to describe as injury to a child as opposed to cruelty to a child, as if it's some sort of impressive checkmate.
Okay, first off, y'all don't know what my man did. Second off, don't be talking about him if y'all don't want to get the fix. And yes, I'm going to marry him. And he does not have cruelty to a child. It's injury to a child. And baby girl, it was a fight between some family members.
Ash has claimed they were together for about 9 months before his release, placing the beginning of their relationship at around November 2023. Within weeks of her claimed separation from Noe, a turn of events that would allegedly lead to Noe jumping Jesse in prison immediately before his release. Ash would celebrate Jesse's return to society by claiming in one clip that she didn't know what he looked like, but was nevertheless going to make a baby with him.
But he sounds so Mexican, you guys, I don't even know how he looks. I don't know how he looks. Once he's actually like at the hotel room with me, we'll probably do like one live together, because I'm gonna get a room for the whole weekend with us. But we have a baby to make, so we ain't gonna be on it. We got a baby to make, okay? We are literally gonna try and get me pregnant the first month he's home.
Ash picked Jesse up from prison around May 31st, 2024, posting videos of a decorated hotel room before immediately streaming their first night together on TikTok. Their relationship, now that Jesse was a free man, however, would be short-lived, as evident by Ash's breakup announcement in June 2024. Ash later claimed that the two broke up because of social media. After she bought Jesse a cheap phone and let him make an online profile for himself, she seethed over all the females who supposedly flooded his inbox. I'm not saying females, that's her.
Why did you guys break up? Because of social media. A lot of females were in his inbox and I just didn't have the trust. I would tell him I wish he was back in prison just because I knew I trusted him in prison, because nobody knew who he was. Nobody was writing him. When he came out, I let him have social media. I gave him a little cheap phone.
Right from the jump, Jesse and Ash's relationship was a turbulent one, publicly streaming their arguments and barely getting to cherish the 10 days they spent together outside of a jail cell. You can see the two bickering constantly, with Ash getting upset at him for being too talkative on his first night out as a free man, and Jesse showing her live stream all the messages he was getting while they were out. Their separation, however, only proved to be the beginning of the fallout, as Ash would decide, for whatever reason, that floating the idea of her being pregnant to her followers and fans would be a good idea. Before long, Ash was excitedly telling her audience that she was late on her period, and that she had been ovulating when she picked Jesse up from jail. Not exactly information I needed to know, but nevertheless,
I was ovulating the day after the day he came home. I already told Jesse that if I'm pregnant, I told him on the way to Irving's. I told him, I said, I start my period in 3 days. And he's like, what are you telling me? I said, I'm just saying, I start my period in 3 days. And he's like, what are you telling me, Ashley? And I was like, no, I'm just saying, like, just in case, you know, something happens and I'm pregnant, I don't need you to be there for me. I said, I can raise this baby on my own. I've raised 2 of them on my own. I don't need you to be here to raise my baby.
She was already posting candidly around June 9th that she was ready to raise a baby alone, before going home and asking her daughters if they were ready to step up and help with the burden that comes with bringing a human being into the world.
If I'm pregnant, she already knows what to do as an older sister. She's gonna help me raise that baby. She's gonna stand on business. And what else, baby? We don't need no Jesse, right?
No, I'm gonna prove all y'all wrong.
But that didn't seem to matter much after Ash began switching between the claim that she had gotten an abortion and saying that she had apparently experienced a miscarriage, explaining that she didn't believe in abortion, actually.
Ever pregnant? Yes, unfortunately I was. But the stress gets to you. So unfortunately I was very sad, but I was happy at the same time. No, I did not abort. I don't believe in aborting. Keep playing, Jesse.
That's why Jesse with 2 bums.
He's just mad because I aborted our baby. I never wanted to have his kid anyways. I had a miscarriage, you guys. But thank you for reminding me. Let's get 2,000 points on
the never-ending contradictions of Ash Trevino, everyone. Despite their in-person relationship lasting only 2 weeks, Ash would report that the content she made of picking Jesse up from prison would single-handedly gain her 30,000 new followers on TikTok, thus launching her new online career, if you can even call it that, and rewarding her for courting such incarcerated men. Believe it or not, at this point in the Trevino timeline, most of the attention she garnered was fairly positive. People living for the messiness, along with the endless clippable moments that such drama would produce naturally. For better, or most definitely for worse, people easily gravitated towards her reckless behavior. Fans and hate watchers alike clung onto her every word, as Ash spent the following days and months reminiscing on her short flings and happily sharing intimate videos of such men during lengthy TikTok lives. Or in the case of Jesse, engaging in heated arguments, and later trying to get him to come visit, disparaging Jesse's next relationships in front of a growing community like it was her own personal diary, and these were not real living beings having their personal experiences carelessly aired out to thousands. Something that we can pretty clearly observe from Ash's behavior from this point on is that she doesn't seem to do well with being alone. She'll readily ditch one man for another with hardly any time to spend by herself in between. These relationships were often spaced apart by days or even hours, and the more convicts she spoke to, the more desensitized she became to their crimes. On April 11th, 2017, 19-year-old Artura Alvarez was gunned down in Federal Way, just south of Seattle, Washington. Alvarez happened to be a member of the United Locotes (UL) street gang, which at the time was locked into a violent feud with a rival gang by the name of Vario Locos (VL). Once the news of Alvarez's murder began to spread, 5 UL gang members took to a Facebook shooters-only group chat, where they began to organize revenge killings against VL associates, which they deemed duck hunting. This resulted in the subsequent shootings of VL member Erasmo Plata and a getaway car driver within the next 8 hours. One such UL conspirator was 19-year-old Francisco Montero, who would later be convicted of Plata's murder in September 2019. But he wasn't caught right away, and during the time it took him to be convicted, Montero additionally took the lives of 19-year-old Eviana Cortez and 13-year-old Elizabeth Juarez on March 28, 2018. The 13-year-old Juarez, who was apparently a member of the Southside Locos gang, had reportedly been caught spraying graffiti over tags left by Montero's gang when she was shot in the back of the head and the thigh. Cortez had no gang affiliations and was simply in the area visiting family when she suffered 4 gunshot wounds to the abdomen, head, and leg. 19 shell casings were found at the scene, as was the DNA of Francisco Montero, who was later charged for the team's murders in 2021. Never one to remain idle, however, while Montero was being held at the King County Correctional Facility for the double homicide, he became involved in a drug trafficking ring that included himself, another inmate, a former jail guard, and 3 others outside the system. The group was caught bribing Moses Ramos with $5,000 to smuggle methamphetamine and fentanyl into the jail between March 23rd and March 24th, 2023. I think you already know what comes next.
Babe, there's 2.3k people watching you right now. 2.3k people watching.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm just saying, they're hella funny.
Guys, he's innocent, and I don't care what y'all say, what y'all think, he's innocent.
Ash first began streaming her conversations with Montero in the middle of September 2024, showing herself giggling and laughing, telling the audience of over 1,000 people at home that he's actually totally innocent, guys, nothing to worry about. She even goes so far as to cackle in response to a person in the chat typing RIP to the victims.
Oh my God, they said, honestly, rip to those who lost their lives.
Over the few weeks they were together, Ash made sure to broadcast all of their correspondence, even when she flashed him on FaceTime at the beginning of October, prompting a creator by the name of Menace to Innis to report the video call to the King County Department of Corrections, and attempted to get Ash banned from using Securus, the software used to communicate with inmates, which they say they managed to do. And although there is some indication that she may have still managed to access these secure messaging systems after being reported somehow, this seemed to play a pretty big role in burning her relationship with Montero to the ground. The final straw appeared to be not being able to handle the fact that Montero was married to another woman in the system. Though Ash claimed at first to not care that he was seeing two women at the same time, she later concluded that she wanted to get to him first. According to Ash, Montero's wife had been procuring women for him by telling him that she was their cousin and could arrange meetups. Ash would claim to have blocked Montero on my birthday, October 7th, and had already moved on to the next guy by October 8th, shockingly.
I blocked Francisco for good. Okay, then that's one good thing. I was tired of getting all the hate from the people, you know, in the comments or whatever. Like, I'm really not a bad person, but we need a new boo. Is there a new boo in the works? Because we don't, on to the next, okay? On to the next. There is.
By fall 2024, Ash Trevino's empathy for the victims of heinous crimes appears to be non-existent in the face of caping for her romantic partners. Whereas with Isaiah, there was a level of justification she could enjoy. They'd known each other before he was incarcerated, and he was a young teen when the crime was committed, etc. But once Ash is involved with Francisco, she's both blasé and willfully ignorant of the repeated atrocities he's carried out. She'd claim around September 11th, 2024, that she hadn't known that Montero had taken the lives of two girls, teenagers, Ash, around the same age of your own daughters.
I never knew. I thought it was a guy, to be honest. I thought it was a guy. I didn't even know it was two females. Thank you, MD. And I asked him about it. I'm like, hey, what are you in prison for? You know, like, I thought it was a dude because that's what he explained to me the first time. But can't let that bring you down. No, you really can't let that bring you down.
Claiming that he explained to her the first time he'd killed a man, inferring that Montero had only discussed his first crime with Trevino, and that she hadn't bothered to look into him any further than that. Either Ash is just that fucking dense, or she's lying. I'll let you decide that one. Either way, her affair with Montero was the last notable case of Ash's prison antics until recently. There were a few others, like the inmate she admitted to cheating on throughout winter of 2024, and another who just popped back up in March, but I digress. You have to understand that trying to untangle each and every one of Ash Trevino's many short-lived but disastrous prison-free woman relationships would not only take time that would make this video 8, 12, 24 hours long, but would also wind up being about as mundane as it is frustrating. Ash had begun to build a career from this behavior, combing through the secure sites for incarcerated individuals who would give her attention and live streaming content in exchange for commissary money and someone to minimize the crimes they had committed to get them incarcerated in the first place. The men who Ash involved herself with were not wrong place, wrong time, or crime of necessary convicts, of which there are many in the US, don't get me wrong. These were men proven to have taken the lives of others in cold blood. Those that disparaged the victims even after the fact, yet still had their actions excused and downplayed by Ash herself on her massive platform. Ash jumps straight to the defense of those that she gets involved with almost immediately, boldly proclaiming that her detractors simply don't understand these men the way that she does. She'd rather not even entertain the idea that perhaps those serving 25, 30, 40-year sentences may just be using her so they can have a couple $100 more in their commissary every month, or, as speculated with Jesse, be using her to get back on their feet when they do get out of prison. And for that, I wouldn't necessarily blame someone for feeling a level of sympathy for Ash. As horrible as her recent actions have been, by the time she was 20, she had already married the man she likely thought she'd be with for the rest of her life. And if she is telling the truth, the idea that she had spent those early years with a man who would just so seamlessly turn around and start a whole other family behind her back, leaving her to fend for their children alone, would be understandably traumatic. Spending her late 20s and early 30s attempting to recapture what she may have felt she missed out on for a life that never quite materialized. The thing about Ash Trevino is that she is a multifaceted twisted individual, in that the facets of her wrongdoings toward other people only multiply the more you look into her. The constant flow of incarcerated individuals that she would entertain and cheat on paints a picture of someone lacking emotional maturity, someone who seeks attention from as many places as possible to fabricate drama and add dimension to her life without actually having to achieve anything. The early clips of Ash at her parents' house show a more permissive approach to parenting. Some clips show her calling for her parents to cook and get things for her kids so she could continue to sit on a live and fight with people, while others show her interacting with her children in a way you'd expect from an older sibling, not a mother.
Haley, it is late to make a grilled cheese, girl. It is too late to make one. She's trying to make a grilled cheese. Mom, can I make it for her? At the end of the day, he's still my husband.
At the end of the day, he don't like you.
Yeah, like they don't understand, like... Evie, shut up. Go over there.
The more time Ash spent on camera, the more glimpses we'd catch of her life off camera, with the single mother drinking home alone and streaming herself at bars in her hometown. These kinds of lonely nights would end in one of two ways, usually, with Ash getting into fights with those she's streaming with, or by broadcasting parts of her sexual encounters with the men she would meet at these bars. Watching these clips as an outsider feels invasive. In one set of clips from the summer of 2024, Ash is sitting in a bar on a live stream, kissing a man with tongue while his daughter seemingly tries to break it up, obviously and understandably embarrassed. This escalates with the two of them sitting in a car where Ash zooms in on him kissing her chest, giggling while said mortified daughter sits in the back, unable to do anything about it. In a separate stream from September 2024, Ash can be seen trying to pick up men at the bar, adjusting her phone so the audience can watch her the whole time as she attempts to find a dance partner, which she eventually does. The worst incident of this nature, however, occurred on a stream with former enemy and fellow TikToker Heartbreaky just a few months ago, where after picking up a man from the bar, Ash starts a TikTok battle, which is essentially a way for creators to make money via gifts sent in by viewers while he's cuddling in bed with her. Over the course of 9 uncomfortable minutes, Ash shows this man touching her chest under her shirt while Heartbreaky tells her to hop off live if she needs to. Ash then begins to pull her own clothes down and flashes her behind to the screen. By 6:40, you can hear her tell him to put it in while she makes faces, implying that they're engaging activities that go against TikTok and YouTube's terms of service, for that matter. It's worth pointing out here that her daughters at one point used to try and watch their mom's live streams. We can only hope that they saw the writing on the wall and stopped doing that, but even so, this is yet more uncomfortable content that will likely fall into the lap of the eldest, who was at this point approaching 1 million TikTok followers of her own. Unsurprisingly, Ash wasn't afraid to launch into spontaneous arguments with friends and strangers alike, mostly lasering in on two friends in particular, Heartbreaky and Heffa. Heartbreaky, or Susana Montez, is a content creator, streamer, and proud owner of God Lifts, a Christian activewear brand. She had what can be loosely described as a brief stint on television as a contestant on season 2 of For the Love of Ray J in 2009, a bachelor-style dating show where the Kim K co-star would attempt to find the woman best suited for him. I've never seen the show, but I can guarantee with almost absolute certainty that it must have been pretty riveting stuff. Susana would come in 5th overall, and would also appear in one episode of 2015's Ballers, according to her IMDb page. From what I've found, the first sign of Susana Montez appearing in the Ashverse happened at the beginning of August 2024, but by September, the friendship would deteriorate, with Susana, now going by Heartbreaky, accused Ash of buying herself gifts and passing them off to her followers, as from Francisco Montero. When Heartbreaky goes after inmates for being losers, Ash comes to the defense of Montero and hits back at the reality star for knowing nothing about the prison system or what being a prison wife is all about.
It was brought to my attention that she's sitting there, I guess, making it seem like I sent myself the flowers. I'm not that desperate. I would not send myself something and then act like it's from a dude. Francisco did send me the roses. Like, he bought me Versace slides. He bought me a Valentino purse. And so for her to sit there and bash
inmates is not right. She called all inmates losers, like I said. She said that they can't do nothing for you, that they're losers. She knows nothing about the prison system. She knows nothing about being a prison wife. All she knows is to pay for phone calls and that we pay for phone calls, but even then the guys pay for calls. I don't pay for mine and Francisco's calls. He pays for them.
Ash and Heartbreaky would continue their beef throughout the remainder of 2024, with the latter claiming that Ash has no resume and is not a real content creator like her.
That girl don't have a resume. That girl never did music videos. That girl never been on TV. That girl never been around nobody but not even her inmates. She used to watch me when I was on TV. I have an actual resume. She's nobody. She's been watching me since I was on TV 15 years ago.
All right, girl, you were on one season of a Ray J reality show. Let's calm down a little bit. By 2025, Ash would accuse Heartbreaky of sleeping around with married men and claim she was just using Ash for her relevancy. And although they did manage to set aside their differences and make nice around February of 25, this rekindling only occurred after Ash's falling out with another former streaming friend, Heffa. Heffa, or Carla, is a fellow content creator who also runs a shipping company with her husband when she isn't battling Ash Trevino on TikTok Live. Her first appearance alongside Ash seems to be in late October, just a few weeks after Ash's falling out with Heartbreaky. Heffa notably defended Ash against her detractors well into the winter months before finally meeting up in person around the third weekend of January. Though it was at the end of January that Heffa would begin to talk bad on Ashley to others within their battling circle, dunking on her friend for allegedly having bed bugs, before launching the first of 2 deplatforming campaigns against Ash. Ash would then retaliate with a legendary crash out that exemplifies the petty energy that the two always had between each other. She disparages Heffa as a little Miss Perfect with her marriage and regrets allowing her to meet her kids.
Heffa want to sit there and talk crap. She look like a heifer. She want to sit there and act like she's all Miss Big Dog on the app. She ain't nothing. She ain't nothing. She want to think she's Miss Perfect. Oh, I got the perfect marriage. I have the perfect everything. My life is this. My life is that. I have a job outside of TikTok. Blah, 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 blah. And I regret ever meeting her. This is why I don't talk to females. This is exactly why I don't talk to females.
After the two made up and began to battle again, their disagreements would return, with Ash making jealous comments about Heffa's husband and looking a little awkward and annoyed when Heffa's daughter would walk in to say goodnight to her when Ash's own children can be seen opening and shutting doors unacknowledged in the background.
Because, yeah. Haley's birthday is March 12th.
Did you eat the cookies? They were good. They look funny, but they were good, right? Give me a hug. I love you. Brush your teeth.
For now, the thing to note is that Ash had no problem gravitating towards whoever would not criticize her on a given day, embracing a close relationship with Heffa over the end of last year while reverting to the last person she could battle with. It almost feels similar to what she does with inmates, hopping quickly from man to man as they trade commissary for attention, then moving on to the next at the first sign of trouble. Ash will say in one of the fallouts with Heffa that the critiques and the drama is why she's not friends with other females. A classic pick-me line for a pick-me woman who is willing to entertain felons and run her mouth towards other women but cannot seem to take her own heat. This idea would become increasingly apparent in her negative interactions with strangers, on one occasion even going so far as to dox her own address on a stream while telling people to pull up on her, to which people began to say bet. And over a plethora of instances, the likes of Tampa Bay and Larissa Marie, other influencers I guess, would come to Ash's home and attempt to fight her. Larissa Marie in particular would take a shot at it in April of 2024 after an argument on Live, while Tampa pulled up in November, to which Ash decides to ring her dad and then the police, where her daughters can clearly be seen inside the house. Ash happened to be streaming when she got there, the stress on her face palpable and not congruent with a woman who will share her address on stream to start a fight.
Still support them. They might not be here because my address was leaked. I don't feel safe with them being here. Street and it's God knows not where the fuck I live.
You did that, Ash. You started this. It sort of shows Ash's dangerous, reckless behavior towards her children, as she wasn't providing them with a safe space in her own home. Haley having her own following on TikTok makes her vulnerable to people wanting to find her too. And at 16, I can't imagine how that must have felt to her. Her own mother was jeopardizing the sanctity of the home she was supposed to be comfortable in. Just horrendous parenting across the board. Which takes us to her parenting as a whole.
So I have 4 girls here right now with me. I just fed them Wingstop. So these kids took over my freaking room. They come and leave my living room a mess. They leave my kitchen a mess. And now they're in my freaking room.
Excuse me, can you please get out of my room? And there's another room right there.
Oh, so y'all want me to go over there?
As mentioned, Ash's parenting style could be described as permissive at best and neglectful at worst. Ash doesn't cook for her children, always ordering them food and telling them to buy food with her card, looking visibly angry whenever they do ask her to make a home-cooked meal.
Oh, y'all want me to cook tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. Both of y'all.
Oh, you want me to cook?
Mm-hmm. You want to ask Trevino? Oh, you don't want to cook now? Oh, no, so you should not cooking? Oh, really?
When her children would have friends over, Ash would continue to live stream, patting herself on the back for getting them Wingstop while letting them run around the house however they wanted, complaining to the chat rather than parenting the kids, then rounding it off with a description of herself as a cool mom on one different occasion.
I'm actually a really cool mom.
In terms of outlook, Ash doesn't seem to understand the harm in her kids lying about their age to sleep with older men.
Like, it's like one of my kids. Say Haley, for instance. She meets a guy. She likes him. She wants to do something. The guy asks her, how old are you? She says, I'm 18 or 17. The guy believes it. And then I find out, I mean, honestly, if I find out my daughter's doing something, I'm not going to sit there and call the cops. I was her age I was. I was doing it, so.
Has never had a problem pulling them out of school with little evidence of them getting a formal education, and easily ignores her children's shouting into the night to the point of complaining about not knowing if it's her kids shouting or people shouting outside.
No reason why. Why are my kids yelling outside though, for real?
Something you might want to know, Ash.
Snipe, guys, snipe! Snipe! Oh my god, we didn't even drop a glove 30 seconds. Go, 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 go!
The way Ash speaks to her children and the dynamic between them is a point of concern in 2 main ways. One of those being that she treats them like her younger sisters, making jabs at their appearances at its least harmful, and at its most harmful, teaching and calling them racial slurs, casually while live streaming.
You're a webback. A border bunny.
There's even one occasion where she admits to pulling on Haley's hair because she was jealous of the attention that Israel Grez would give his daughter over his wife.
Haley literally has been through, like, the bottom of her life. Like, I'm telling you, whenever we lived with her dad, I used to pull her by the hair because I was so mad at her. Like, I feel like he loved her more than he loved me, and so, like, I took my anger out on her.
Speaking to the idea that Ash had never really bonded with her children in a normal way. The other worrying aspect of this dynamic is the possible parentification of Haley in particular. There are plenty of times throughout Ash's career where we see her venting to the teenager about the issues she's facing with her father or the online beef that has sent Ash into a spiral dating right back to last summer, when she's calling her daughter in the middle of the night. As we've seen, there are also examples of the girls walking into Ash's room while she's in the midst of embarrassing herself, begging her to come off live for the night, almost as if they're the ones soft parenting her, to which Ash will throw a tantrum, mute her mic, and order them out of the room before continuing to stream regardless. This role reversal speaks to the claims that Ash doesn't see herself really as the girl's parent, but more of a sister or a friend, leaning on them as her own personal support system, all while the girls miss out on having a mother as a result. Her younger daughter, Iviana, is also prone to health issues. Ash has a tendency of trying to ignore them, such as this infamous clip of her dancing around the room to the new song, oh my god, more on that later, instead of helping her child, once again getting annoyed when her eldest turns it off.
Mom, I threw a party dancing. She's dancing? Yes. Alexa, stop.
Bro, I was jamming to Nunu.
Or sitting on her phone on stream instead of taking Haley to the emergency room when she burned her hand in a hotel room.
Just because you have to get an Uber doesn't mean you shouldn't take her to the urgent care.
I know, but I have to get up early.
She is happy to discuss her daughter's health issues on live though, on one occasion talking about her children's risk of cancer in the wake of their father's diagnosis, or telling her chat that if they send her a Galaxy, a gift that gives you money on a TikTok live, she'll talk about why her younger child was in the hospital.
You said send a Galaxy to know about my baby girl's health when I was in the hospital.
Oh, that's because, yeah, that was like a while back.
Emblematic of all of this behavior was Thanksgiving 2024, where Ash decided to venture out to El Paso, Texas with her children to go and visit someone who she had met on Live just a few weeks prior. Upon arrival, Ash and the friend decide to go to a bar, even though they were already drunk and despite the knowledge that her location had been leaked, with Ash telling the children that they could order food from her phone. At the bar, they became even drunker and even almost got into a fight, which of course was all streamed as well. They survived this encounter relatively unscathed, but end up running into her friend's abusive ex-boyfriend upon returning home. After the ex discovered that she had gone out, an argument unfolds all in front of the viewer's eyes, resulting in a physical altercation, all while Ash's children are still at the house. Ash would later claim to have stopped talking to this friend a week later, calling her a drug addict to her followers. So at least she inflicted all that trauma on her kids for nothing, right? As one might expect, an event this startling naturally sparked a wave of CPS calls, which only further enraged Ash, who despite always seeming to be home alone, would also love to claim that she's been by her kids' side all their life and that she's never lost custody of them. She would claim in streams the CPS kept coming and leaving once they realized everything was fine, arguing that you needed evidence for a CPS call, of which there was none.
Y'all are really trying to get my kids taken from me, and it's not gonna happen. Do you know how many CPS cases I've had on me in the last 4 months, and I still have custody of my kids? Like, you do understand when you call CPS, you have to have actual proof that they're in an unfit condition, right?
As mentioned earlier, Ash and her children had been living with their parents until 2024, which isn't an inherent problem at all. Having somewhere secure for your children post-divorce is the most important thing, but when Ash did move out, it was into a 2-bedroom condo. A little small for 2 teens, you would think, right? Well, in a house tour at the end of 2024, Ash finally shows off her kid's room, which seems to contain just 1 air mattress for the 2 of them. She's claimed a plethora of reasons as to why the girls don't have their own beds, mainly that they stay at their grandparents most of the time anyway, occasionally denying that they sleep on the air mattress, and going on to claim that she's going to move into a new house regardless. There are entire compilations of excuses as to where her children's bedroom furniture is. She even went on Live at one point to say that she was getting them the bedroom furniture for Christmas, among many other expensive gifts. But by February, the girls would confirm on Camilla's podcast that these beds, strangely, never materialized. And don't get it backwards, Ash is making some money, at least enough to buy a fucking bed for her teenage daughters. Ash loves to show how much money she spent on snack hauls and other shopping hauls, often putting the receipts out on Live and bragging about how hundreds of dollars means nothing to her. Her children's lack of beds would also become an easy line of attack for those that would get into beefs with Ash, such as the likes of Heffa, who started to claim that she bought a bed for Ash's youngest daughter in March after they fell out for good. Another character, Santos, who we will be meeting soon enough, would also include a story about the air mattresses bursting when he finally fell out with Ash. While Camilla would be able to make an earnest attempt at buying them beds, which we'll cover in a bit, those beds still failed to appear. And I mean, really, I can only imagine how embarrassing this whole ordeal must have been for the children. Having hundreds of thousands of people making your inability to spend the night at your own mother's house cannon fodder for internet beef and punchlines to jokes in each lolcow communities, the complex relationships that must occur when having a mother like Ash Trevino while coping with the loss of your father being clipped and reposted onto tens if not hundreds of T-pages on a daily basis, all while your mother simply doesn't care what she's putting out there. To have all this dirty laundry aired out on the internet, despite their repeated asks for their mother to stop, is damaging at best. All of Ashley's behavior is neglectful at worst, with the feeling that she's taking advantage of her children without taking responsibility for them being hard to shake. See, Ashley will often use her status as a mother to justify her terrible behavior, whether it's when she's going through a breakup and resolving to put them first, which can be seen back when she was mainly using Instagram, or falling out with Heffa, or the Camilla interview where she insists she regrets putting her children in these environments. For Ash, it seems the moniker of mother is more important than the act of parenting, waxing concerned and pretending to put her kids first while in practice ignoring them when they were sick, acting frustrated when the girls needed emotional support from her, despite taking it from them, as shown in the clips earlier, and of course, depriving them of basic living conditions like a fucking bed. The effect of all this behavior has been the increasing estrangement between Ash and her eldest daughter, a sad fact when looking back on the clips of her and Haley in the early days. Though Ash was still very much struggling with her alcoholism and at pushing parentification, she would drunkenly tell her chat about how her eldest daughter was her best friend, going on about how she loved her and grabbing and hugging Haley as she giggles, which hurts even as a third-party observer to this madness. Ash wouldn't spend Christmas 2024 with her family and would instead opt to stream herself giving her children their presents on Christmas Eve, thus monetizing her work without even bothering to wrap and separate the gifts herself. We'll get more into Christmas 2024 in a bit, but for now, taking a moment to consider the impact of the first Christmas after your biological father's passing is also the Christmas you don't spend with your mother at this age is on its own pretty significant. Perhaps even more so is the fact that none of us should know any of this, frankly. The only reason we know about the breakdown of Ash Trevino's family life and can speculate on its impact on the minors involved is because Ash has sold it to the internet even when her daughters have asked her not to. I said before that we're never going to know everything about a family just from what they post online, but the fact remains that an invasion of privacy at this magnitude is only going to be damaging. There's no way around it. The ripple effects on Haley in particular have included her having a slur scandal of her own, seemingly a direct consequence of her mother's oversharing, though I would like to go ahead and suggest to those deep in the Trevino verse to give the children a little bit of grace. Even when they're older kids, they're still having to put up with being raised by Ash Trevino. As for Ash, she's still choosing to spend most of her time and money getting drunk, flirting with men, and posting it on the internet, speaking to this idea of arrested development and the idea that she's trying to reclaim her youth. She likes to think that her kids are already grown and that she's raised them already. And if there were any evidence pointing to her mindset there, perhaps we should look no further than her pursuit of a particular young man who happens to be just a few years older than her eldest daughter. A young man that Ash wouldn't have even met if it weren't for Haley passively showing her mother her TikTok crush. That's right, it's time to meet Santos, and it's time for shit to hit the fan. Santos PRC is a 20-year-old content creator and former club promoter currently based out of North Texas. His content can be described as a mix of lifestyle and cringe. By the time he became involved with Ash Trevino, he had built up some traction by courting another livestream slop creator by the name of Shoddy Bay. When Santos entered the picture, Ash was already hitting her peak relevance. She was fast approaching 1 million followers and would begin to go live with Santos late into 2024, uncomfortably flirting with the young star and joking about using her rose toy with him on stream in December, openly asking Santos if she could give him head. And just, this shit is so hard to watch.
Is my horse ready?
Yeah, you already know why.
My horse is ready?
Yeah.
Where is it at?
It's pointing straight up right now on my path.
You just look so naughty and spicy right now.
Let me see what you're carrying right now. Go down, go down.
What else do you want to see?
Can I taste it?
Ash would gleefully claim that their e-relationship had been taken to the next level, proudly announcing to her audience that I'll just let her speak.
I've already seen his beepee, and he's already seen my nunu, okay?
Back then, the two were claiming that Santos was 22 years old.
Santos is 22. Yes, I know. He's 22. I'm 35. Yes, he knows. I know.
Which would be an uncomfortable fact on its own, especially when you consider Ash was in her mid-30s, but compounded by the knowledge that Ash had only found and began to flirt with Santos because Haley had shown her mother his account because she had a crush on him. I mean, Jesus Christ, how do you steal your daughter's crush?
You say
my crush. That ain't even funny, bro. Mom.
How do you feel that your mom stole your crush?
Santos, how do you feel about being bald?
After all, Santos has never been one to hide his affinity for older women.
I do have a thing for like cougars.
For what?
Cougars.
You do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love.
So you enjoy an older woman?
Yeah.
This created the perfect storm of controversy and rage bait that seemed to amplify both of these characters within the TikTok tea world, thanks to one clip of one of their hardest watches gaining upwards of 16 million views. Ash and Santos would further capitalize on such momentum by producing the hit single Nunu. Released December 22nd with MS Gold, the song features standout lyrics, including, but certainly not limited to, quote, "You wanna know how it smells? Ask Santos. He know it smells well," along with, quote, "I seen the pee-pee, he seen the noo-noo." I hate that I looked at that. With noo-noo, Ash and Santos succeeded in fanning the flames of controversy surrounding their sexual relationship and adding another 1 minute and 20 seconds of content to any audio torture playlist that the CIA is probably using in a black site right now. It was also around this time that Nipplegate would take place, as I'm sure you've gleaned just from the name itself. This scandal involved Ash flashing her bare breasts to Santos on Instagram Live in a clip that would inevitably be sent to her employer, leading to her termination from the dentist office a few days before Christmas. This paved the way for yet another one of her enormously racist rants targeting the new owners of the office.
I was at that office for 6.5 years. I worked every day, Monday through Thursday. Then they changed the owners, and I knew it was gonna happen. Then we got Indian owners. Yes, I said that.
Against the good Lord up above's wishes, Santos and Ash had begun seeing each other in person by December 14th, being sure to publicize their dates on TikTok, which to an untrained eye might look a little, dare I say, sweet, maybe wholesome, until you take into account that Ash is licking her lips at an alleged 22-year-old. They'd see each other on multiple occasions throughout December, including a visit on the 21st and the 26th. By this point, they had been openly cuddling and acting pretty affectionate on stream, while still insisting that Santos was 22. And this is where the house of cards that Ash had built from her over-sexualized behavior would finally come tumbling down. On the evening of December 26, 2 waves of cops rolled up to the home of Ashley Trevino, who was at the time hosting Santos and another creator by the name of Brie Olson, along with a few others who weren't on camera. 35-year-old Ash calls her dad to help her with the cops at her door, who can be heard on stream informing Ash that Santos's actual age happens to be 19, shortly after checking his ID to confirm. Ash's immediate response to this information is, "But he's not drinking."
So Ashley, just so you know, this gentleman is 19 years old. Okay, so.
But he's not drinking.
I had a reason to be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's 19 years old. Nobody's going to jail. You need to be a little more aware of who's coming to your house.
Can you please tell them to quit harassing my dad?
Okay, well, I don't know if that was what they were talking about. Looking more annoyed than anything else at the officers for telling her to be more careful with who she lets into her home, while Santos begins to rant about how he shouldn't even have to prove his age to the police in the first place. A few minutes later, Santos breaks down in Ash's bedroom. Ash comes to his defense and tells Chet that she's willing to give her 19-year-old boyfriend whatever money he needs. Reassuring him with a warm embrace, Ash tries to kiss Santos as he recoils in response, making this already skin-crawling watch all the more agonizing. The backlash that immediately stemmed from this incident was strong and potent, and as per usual, Ash would defend herself by claiming ignorance, arguing that Santos had lied about his age to her. Ash is happy to age him up to 24 in her retellings of the saga, but ends up having a wonderful Freudian slip when she has to correct herself from saying she thought he was 20 straight after claiming she saw his ID that said 2000.
I've never been with nobody under the age of 18, so do not call me a pedo, because I'm not. Santos, I never knew Santos was 19. He showed me his military ID that said 2000. I never knew he was actually 19. I always thought he was 24. And y'all can call me whatever y'all want, but at the end of the day, like, I've never been with nobody underage.
This, of course, wouldn't end the relationship right there, however. In fact, they've continued to hang out together as recently as May 19th, despite the 16-year age gap once again. Santos, for his part, would bring together a group of people in December, which was sure to set off a disastrous chain of events. This included the introduction of Brie Olson and a fellow influencer by the name of Vale. Santos would familiarize Ash with the idea of content houses around this time. Brie Olson is a 24-year-old model, influencer, and OnlyFans creator currently living in LA, alongside somewhat best friend Vale, a 20-year-old model and fellow OnlyFans creator. Santos seemed to meet these 3 women separately, but the content they would make collaboratively was captivating enough to the T community in a horrific car crash kind of way. On one hand, a 24-year-old Brianna would be calling Ash Trevino mommy, while they'd all be laughing along to her flirtations with a 19-year-old Santos. awesome, dude. And believe me, Brianna and Vale are car crashes of their own. The former is currently engaged in a year-long custody battle with her child's father, which has seen her lose temporary and expected full custody of her son after a pregnancy filled with drama and a Coachella trip where she was 9 months pregnant. While the latter, Vale, would already have 2 children of her own and would be caught leaving one of these children on her baby daddy's doorstep in an infamous Ring doorbell camera clip. But in the act of bringing this unholy trio together, Santos had almost created a perfect self-sustaining drama ecosystem, which produced enough content on its own to keep the masses sufficiently entertained while assuring that everyone was profiting. But rest assured, the cracks would begin to show in due time. Once Agegate was over, that is. The first of these incidents took place on Christmas Day, with Ash raging at Santos for not coming to see her despite him claiming he would. She would then proceed to make some pretty serious claims against the teen, accusing Santos of forcing her into oral sex on a live stream around December 28th.
Because he was like, no, you're gonna do it right now. And he came and put it in my mouth. Oh, you should take him off your live before he calls.
As we'll see soon, Santos would later deny these allegations. And look, when it comes to Ash Trevino, I think we've seen that getting the rock-hard, solid facts is a pretty daunting, maybe near impossible task, but that doesn't usually matter as much when it's just drama, clout farming. It matters more when there are serious allegations of assault being made. I mean, these things need to be vetted. And transparently, I just don't have enough indisputable evidence right now to say one way or the other who is telling the truth in this scenario. We'll get to Santos' side of the story in a bit, but for right now, I just have to be honest with you there. What we know for certain is that these live streams would continue for a bit, even as tensions flared up, culminating with Ash's announcement in the first few weeks of 2025 that she was done with Santos before hopping back on another stream with him not long after. She would continue to defend her flirtations into January, still arguing he was older than 19, even saying she's never dated anyone under 27, which is straight up not true. I've dedicated the whole section of this video to her dating inmates younger than that, but whatever, right? By the end of the month, Ash could be found streaming her arguments with Santos in real time. Santos would launch into tirades of his own, posting multiple TikToks on January 27th declaring he was finished with Ash, accusing her of stealing money from him and kicking off a string of running jokes about the aroma of her new.
Mrs. Nunu, I'm officially done with you publicly and privately. I blocked your number. Your kids sleep on air mattresses. I saw one of them pop. And you slept over one time. Don't lie, you got one of those, right? And no, it does not smell well. You can ask Santos. It reeks.
And yes, while a lot of these claims are hard to verify, the bedbug stuff seems pretty legit. In fact, here's a clip of one crawling around. And here we have witnesses stating they saw an exterminator. Now, of course, how this woman managed to attract so many bedbugs into her home where she's only bought one goddamn bed, we don't have the time to speculate on. What's important right now is that on January 13th, Ash would decide to visit San Antonio for a meetup with Bree and their streaming group minus Santos, which devolved into them being continually kicked out of bars and restaurants. Ash later explained that a member of their group had attempted to fight the owner of the Saltgrass Steakhouse, and because many of the people in this group were under 21, they weren't exactly able to do much bar hopping. They resolved to eat at the Rainforest Cafe there instead, which is right when viewers began to work out the group's location and swarm the restaurant. Sure enough, the police ended up being called in the middle of this schism, and upon searching the group, found that 3 members of Ash's circle were armed, leading to multiple arrests due to an individual called D. Kane already having charges for aggravated assault. Following this, Ash would proceed to rant in her car, complaining that the people who pulled up were fans using her name for clout and invading her privacy. Ash, of course, fails to take even a shred of accountability here for the fact that they were the ones streaming themselves at the mall literally all day.
They're gonna say, y'all take accountability.
Yeah, but it's not our fault. We were walking around.
How is it our fault that we wanted to...
Y'all called the restaurant. Y'all were calling.
They finna say take accountability for our actions. Like, what?
Ash continued her ramblings at the Airbnb, blaming their stream for the arrests happening in the first place. Bree would defend herself from the accusations that she ran away from the situation that day, explaining what she was actually doing, in fact, was moving very quickly in the opposite direction, and that there were so many people, you would have done the same thing, I guess.
One thing that I wanted to address is we were not running from anybody, guys. You have to remember, our security just got arrested, okay? So we were unprotected going back to our car. The cops were really like, go now, because there was like a herd of like 100+ people coming our way. trying to fight us all simultaneously, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, if you think I'm, whatever names you want to call me and say that I was running, bitch, you faced 100 people at once and see how you feel.
If you could fucking believe it, Bree and Ash themselves would have a falling out in the wake of this incident. I know that's incredibly surprising, culminating with the nearly 36-year-old Ash claiming in February that she asked the 24 and 19-year-old for one favor, which was to hold the bag she was allegedly carrying a gun inside of due to the potential a gun charge would have had on upending the status of her open CPS case.
I did ask like Bree and Violet, I was like, if y'all take the blame for my bag, will y'all please, I'll bail y'all out. Like, no, I got custody battles going on. No, I got custody battle on. I said, well, I have an open CPS case on me. I was like, if I go to jail, like I can literally lose my kids. But look at them now. And that's how I knew they were not true friends. And ever since that day is whenever I said I'm cutting ties with them. Because I asked them to do me one favor and they didn't do it, which was fine because it's not their fault. But still, you would have thought like, okay, I have an open CPS case. Y'all know I had an open CPS case.
Ash promised to post their bail, but Brianna refused to go through with the plot because of her ongoing custody battle, which was consistent with the story that Bree would tell. Ash spouted off here in ways that were frankly pretty hypocritical, railing against Bree for losing custody of her son and accusing her supposed friend of having a coke problem on her Instagram story, as well as making some other disparaging remarks. These 2 months of Ash Trevino's life would bring her some of the most attention she had ever seen in her career overall, while also exacerbating once more the arrested development she was experiencing. And moving away from the prison wife content that had originally gained her such momentum, she had now planted herself firmly within the most drama-filled circles she could find. All I see in these early clips is a mother in her 30s duking it out with people in their late teens and early 20-somethings as if she isn't a grown adult who should know better. Drinking into the early hours of the morning, flirting and fighting with her supposed friends. Ashley clearly felt comfortable in this role with all of these young boys, so much so that there were some instances before the fallout where it looked like Ash was getting jealous over Bree and Santos, while the clips of her arguing on live with Santos would have you believing they were teenagers going through a nasty breakup like they were in high school. Of course, the burning question on most people's minds was to what extent was any of this shit real, and how much of it was manufactured dribble intended for peak virality. Had any of these people actually slept together? Do we really need to know the quality of anyone's vaginal hygiene here? To answer at least some of these questions, I think it's time we finally turn to an individual I've referenced several times throughout this video, Miss Camilla Araujo. On February 7th, 2025, Ash and her children made the trip out to Los Angeles on the dime of Camilla Araujo, a MrBeast employee turned OnlyFans creator and TikTok influencer, most known for her presence in the Bop House. The Bop House was the first in the wave of OnlyFans content houses that have gained prominence in the last few years, offering adult creators a space they can live and work with others in the industry to make safe for work promotional content that can become a source of income in its own right. Now let's put a pin in the adult content houses for now. Although we won't be discussing the Bop House much in this video, note that the success of Camilla and her colleagues has spawned the same kind of copycats as content houses did in the period between 2017 and 2020, of which characters such as Brie Olsen and Vale have become involved with, i.e. the MILF House. But let's go back to Ash, okay? This interview, now viewed over 12 million times, served as both a watershed moment in the Ash Trevino lore, as well as a spotlight on the way she approaches her relationships and the treatment of her children we touched on earlier. While this shoot was scheduled a few weeks after the fallout of Ash and Santos, Camilla explained her main aim was to attempt to extract the truth out of Trevino by having her daughters there to live react to the explosive claims their mother would inevitably make. A somewhat exploitative strategy, considering her daughters were 12 and 16 at this point, but it's hard to argue it wasn't effective in both holding Ash's feet to the fire when it came to her overinflation of stories and the impact her behavior has had on the 2 kids she's supposed to be taking care of. Ash kicked off the interview by insisting she's raised her kids since they were born and has never left their side, before qualifying it with the fact that only her youngest daughter actually lives with her, while the eldest spends most of her time at her grandparent.
I've raised my kids since they were born, never left their side. Till this day, still have not left their side.
But people would say that they're with their grandparents majority of the time.
The little one does live with me, but recently she went back for a bit. My parents helped me raise them after me and their dad split up.
This devolves into a conversation about their dad's side of the family, where the girls begin to look increasingly uncomfortable. When asked straight up about her parenting style, Haley muses that it may just be follower envy.
Congrats on almost being at 1 million.
Thank
I
you.
clocked it.
And then there's a lot of people saying that she's jealous of me because...
How does that make you feel?
I don't know. There's like nothing to be jealous of. I mean, I am her daughter and they say I look like her. So there's nothing, not that I have more followers than her. Maybe that's why.
Oh, so you think she's jealous of you because she has more followers?
Which Ash starts to giggle and says she'd be just as popular if it weren't for a mass unfollowing incident that occurred around New Year's Eve and her account being banned, before pivoting to defending her parenting style and bragging about buying Haley a Gucci purse.
I'm very proud of her though. Like, I bought her a Gucci purse when for her, was it 900K or 800K? Like, what 15-year-old literally...
Not my ass. I had Barbies.
Exactly.
Without mentioning the fact that Haley doesn't even have her own bed, Ash insists that the life she's giving them is the one she wanted when she was a little girl.
So it's like, you know, I'm not jealous of her. I'm blessed to be able to give her the life that I've always wanted as a little girl. I might have not had a Gucci bag, but I had their dad, okay? At 15, so... We were dating at 14.
The girls would go on to admit that they've lost friends as a result of Ash's online reputation, sharing such embarrassing stories of being clipped and going viral.
And a lot of people don't like my mom going live, getting clipped or anything because I guess they're embarrassed of it for being our friends and stuff. I would say we lost a bit of friends.
Really?
Yeah.
And that other children's parents don't feel comfortable sending their kids to her house after the address was doxed.
Their friends, some of them do not come over my house anymore. The parents don't feel comfortable because my address is leaked.
She runs with a jealousy argument over the material goods that she's given her daughters, who by this point are staring at the floor every time Ash opens her mouth. Watching Ash Trevino's daughters in this podcast is pretty heartbreaking. They're candid and measured in their retellings of the awful things their mother has done, all while Ash lounges around, bringing up incidents like their gossip and shutting down her youngest daughter when she tries to say that Ash's oversharing of their medical issues has crossed boundaries and hurt her feelings.
You said send the galaxy to know about my baby girl's health when I was in the hospital.
Oh, that's because,
yeah, but no, but I still didn't like that.
They try to get through to her when she starts talking about yet another new man, this time a 23-year-old, but she waves them off with the insistence that she can't be using her for clout because she sends her money.
Literally, he's one of my biggest gifters on TikTok.
So he's like a mini sugar daddy.
He's young, but he's
How
younger
old is
than
he?
me. He's 23.
Why not? Okay, wait.
He's one of my biggest gifters, and we've been talking since December.
So you're just gonna date the biggest gifter, who says he's a Christian that doesn't wanna?
Yeah, we're gonna save ourselves until marriage.
Ashley, stop playing with me.
The daughters also express their discomfort with the age gap between their mother and her various beaux.
It's weird for my mom. She's 36, and she gets with people in their
who are
20s.
19.
This interview is an illuminating insight into the dynamic that Ashley has with her young daughters. Even in this, you can see Ash treating her kids like they're her siblings, joking around and poking fun at them while trivializing their actual concern, knowing that none of the valid concerns they've tried to bring up with her have actually sunk in. Ashley's idea of giving her children a good life is materialistic, and allowing them to use her credit card in lieu of having a livable space of their own in their mother's home, a situation which must feel devastating for teenagers who lost their dad emotionally as children, then physically less than a year ago.
My kids are teenagers. They don't need me to feed them. They DoorDash food when they're hungry. They have my card info. When I leave out of town or out of state, I send my mom $500 to $1,000. They have a bed in the room.
The final 10 minutes or so of this podcast consists of Ash and Camilla talking alone. It, of course, doesn't take long for Ash to start contradicting her children's claims that her and Santos didn't do anything together.
They never did anything. That was just for a song.
Did you do stuff with Santos?
So, yes, we have done stuff.
Okay.
Twice. 2 separate occasions.
With a 19-year-old boy.
She also immediately contradicts being mortified to find out Santos' real age and implies that if they did in fact get physical, his status as a teenager at the time wouldn't have stopped her.
in my head, it's like, why would you go for someone who is underdeveloped?
So with that, I always
Because they are. Your brain does not fully develop till the age of 25.
Yeah, but age to me is, I mean, literally, if you're over the age, you're an adult. I didn't know he was 19 at the time.
So this is before you knew.
Yes.
Claimed before you knew.
Literally.
When alone with Camilla, she makes the claim that her daughters are at her grandparents' house because of the endless CPS calls spurred by the internet. These decisions could be seen as responsible if it weren't for Ash constantly waxing doting over her daughters and putting herself on a pedestal.
Have somebody else raise her, or I don't have my baby daddy raise her. Like other moms on TikTok. Like Brie, I don't have my kid's dad raising my kids. I raise them.
It would also come across as more serious if Ash had treated her daughter's disapproval with anything other than contempt, laughing along as Camilla asked about the perpetual crisis that is Ashley's public life, as if there were no consequences for them.
She married a man in prison. Why?
This is her second marriage in prison.
Y'all just come live with us.
Yes, please.
Well, they have 2 new members.
When the podcast initially came out, I think Ashley actually expected to come across as endearing to those who started following her since the whole Santos debacle, but it didn't exactly go that way. Instead, the ensuing backlash from this interview was twofold. 1, people were mad that she had taken her teenage daughters to a virtual porn house, and 2, even based on her own responses, Ash still came across as a despicable parent, and I'm sure none of us would expect her to take such criticism well. Instead of doing any kind of soul-searching or self-reflecting at all, Ash just decided to blame Camilla.
I know it made me look bad, but at the end of the day, that's who I am as a person. Like I said, the podcast was 2 hours, you guys. There's only an hour long. There's an hour of it that's not there. If I would have known she was gonna name it what she named it, I wouldn't have done it, to be honest, because I'm not the world's worst mom.
This type of response slyly accuses Camilla of manipulating her, which was further amplified by the fact that Ash didn't get paid despite the estimated 60 grand Camilla had made on the episode, and that Camilla hadn't even bought the beds for her children like she said she would. How dare she?
I didn't make no money from the podcast. And also, she hasn't ordered the girls' stuff yet, so.
In response, Camilla took to blasting Ash on live, showing proof not only of her paying for the flights to LA and their stay in the Ritz-Carlton, but sending Ash $3,000 via Apple Pay, and also providing evidence of Ash ignoring the text messages where Camilla clearly asks her to send the links to the furniture the girls wanted.
Can you send me the money for it? Of course, yeah. So it came out to like $2,700 and something for like 2 days. And I was like, that's fine. I even sent her more. I sent her like interest on it. I was like, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. The next thing she sent me is a screenshot of her trying to change the flight. Didn't ask me anything. She said, would I be able to change the flight to this one so we can stay until Sunday? I said, let me know what they want for their room. She didn't answer that. She said, okay, so I extended until Friday. It was $1,039, but do I do the flight for you? What?
But Camilla was still on the hunt for answers. She wanted to get to the bottom of Ash's relationship with Santos. And what better way to do that than to invite the legend himself onto the pod?
Today's podcast is a good one. We have Santos.
This also provided the chance for Santos to fully address the allegations of sexual assault made against him in January. When he sits down with Camilla, Santos claims they met because she sent him a live request, of which he accepted, stating that when he was flirting with her, he was simply picking up what she was putting down.
I was just being the troll I am, you know, and you know, I'm a little flirt sometimes, so.
Okay, so you were flirting with Ash Trevino.
Yes.
As trolling.
I just match energies.
Okay, so you felt she was coming on to you, so you're like, oh, fuck it, like, let's do this.
Yeah.
The angle that Santos takes here is that the now 20-year-old was acting as Ash Trevino's manager and was in on the lie of their flirtations while denying that he had acted sexually towards her or licked her rose toy.
I never licked no rose toy.
And that they were knowingly playing characters.
So this was all a marketing play. There was never intention of you having a relationship with her.
No, business is business.
In Santos' version of events, they stopped speaking to one another in part because Ash had owed him money for an Airbnb, but as the podcast goes on, he begins to recall how he would interact with fellow Content House member Brie Olson, and never quite denying that he used Ash Trevino and her obvious crush for clout.
Did you or did you not sleep with Brie?
No.
Okay. Did you ever do anything with her?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little few shots.
What does that mean?
Innocent kisses.
So she was upset that you kissed Bree. You don't think it's because she wanted to pursue something more romantically with you.
It's just a
I don't
thing,
buy
like-
that you didn't. You could have used the fact that you knew she liked you for your own personal gain to get views and to get clout. That's genuinely how I feel about it.
No, to be honest, like I was actually. Like,
You were very honest with her about how you felt and
Yeah.
the fact that this was.
And I told her it's gonna take a big risk. I told her you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot to be in this game.
So why was she tweaking that you kissed Bree?
She tweets about everything.
Because she wanted something with you. And you used the fact that she did to get views.
I mean, a lot of people love hanging
Okay,
out.
but that's the truth.
I mean-
All right, cheers.
When pressed, Santos brushes off claims that he had assaulted Ash and asserts that she was just trying to fit in with the women she was with.
So she's accusing you of forcing her to give.
So basically, she's trying to like blend in with the girls because
They're coming out with a lot of allegations, so she's trying to join in.
she knew what she was doing. Like she even texted me like sorry and everything, and I called her out right after. I was like, oh, I did this and that, and then she was like, no, you didn't. This girl knows what she's doing, trying to bring me down.
Santos then alleges it was Ash who would often be the one trying to kiss him. But the second accusation is more chilling, with Camilla playing part of the testimony from a woman named Angelina Solis. Angelina alleges that Santos had found her in a nightclub bathroom, forced her to do cocaine in the stall, then took her in a taxi back to her home where he let himself into her house, removed her clothing on her bed, and assaulted her. She alleges that when she woke up the next morning, she had been left naked and exposed on top of the bed while Santos had tucked himself in and went to sleep, then forced her to cross back over the border to Mexico to retrieve the phone from the Uber they had taken the night before, blaming her for being too drunk and him needing to look after her. Santos would blame these allegations on a supposed smear campaign, claiming the story was fabricated and that it was the friend group of an ex-girlfriend attempting to take him down.
You're claiming that they're just all in a friend group and they're
They're
like,
all-
how do we get clout off of this?
That's a thing. Like I can't really just explain and show y'all what.
But did you sleep with her
No, I didn't sleep with any of them.
at all?
No, I mean
Okay.
the only one I slept with was my ex,
Mhm.
but she was obsessed. She's like posts about me every fucking day.
You don't believe anything that Angelina
Yeah,
said
like,
was
that's
true.
it does kind of bug me now, like
Mhm.
more often now because like I've exposed the truth.
And what's that?
Like she knows she fucking lied on that shit. Like I know where it started off.
Mhm. Where did it start off?
These guys going live.
Right. And what did they say?
They just started like trying to start something. You know, I have screenshots still to this day, like of the group chat saying like, hey, let's push for this. Let's get Santos canceled. You know.
Would you care to share those screenshots?
Yeah, I'll share them. I'll share them out once everything's
Okay.
confirmed.
I don't really know how to describe it, but this interview with Santos just has an odd energy to it. His spaced out attitude and overall evasiveness, juxtaposed with the seriousness of the allegations at play, don't quite sit right with me. After its release, Santos would go on live and muse that he wished someone let him do it sober. While hiding behind being 19 and peer pressured easily, Santos doubles down on not having slept with Ashley, but he, like the internet at large it seems, would rather sweep the SA claims against him under the rug. Camilla would decompress about her wade into this lake of absolute utter horse shit with Tana Mojo on March 13th, shedding some light on both interviews. The first bit of insight was that she gave even more credence to the self-absorbed and frankly delusional nature of Ash Trevino.
It was not painted in the way she thought it was. You think I'm a fan? You think I'm a
But
Nicki fan?
she's delusional. She really does feel like she has fans and supporters and like people.
She sat there and said, I literally hate that I have to go everywhere with security. And I just feel like I miss my old life.
I saw her saying that on live and then ran into her at the airport. Not a soul in sight. She's completely alone. Like nobody's approaching her.
The most interesting aspect, though, was the discussion about Santos.
He shows up, right? Fried. Out of his fucking mind, mumbling fried.
Weed, you think, or you think like further?
Weed, but here's the tea. He's like, he comes in and he's like, yo, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just so fucking fried. And I'm looking at him like, okay, here's the difference. If you smoke every day, you know how to act. It's not an occasion for you. He asked me in the middle of podcast, can we redo this tomorrow? Like, can we do it again? I'm like, no.
He apparently messed around pre-filming, ordering food, and eventually inviting his plug to the set, then saying that he got up 5 times to pee. Perhaps the most telling detail is that Camilla claims her crew found blood-stained tissues in the trash can, which Tana seems to understand immediately.
I'm like talking to my team. They go in the bathroom. They're like, look, I took this video as evidence just in case he ever tried to, pin anything against you. But like, there's like these little tissues with like blood in the
Oh, yep, enough said.
in the trash can. I have no ground to stand on to say he was doing, but what can I assume?
The burning question is, why the f didn't he flush them down the toilet, for God's sake? It's okay, whatever. We're at a point now in the story where the ultimate leg of the Ash Trevino arc could have her going one of two ways. A descent further into lolcow style infamy, where she continues to profit handsomely from her branded crash outs we all love to hate, or a drop in relevance that could see Ash lose all that she built with the likes of Santos and Brianna Olsen over the past few months. In the wake of this interview going live, she would have a few more noteworthy moments, like when she collabed with that fake lie detector guy and participated in an Ash Trevino versus 20 guys video, but even these stunts failed to reach the same level of popularity that her more infamous clips once had. These videos didn't do much to offer Ash any momentum outside of the live stream battling space, nor did any of it hit the same numbers as the initial interview with Camilla. While Santos appeared to fall off for a month or two, by March 21st, he was back making content with Olsen in her new MILF house while beefing with the father of her child over the custody battle, which again, trust me, is a story for another day. I am working on it. I just have to pace myself or I'm afraid I might die. It seems that by now, Ash's audience is looking for the truth. However messy, exemplified by Camilla's frustration at not being able to get a straight answer out of anybody about what exactly their dynamic was or how far the relationship had gone. Teetering on the edge of the truth is only lucrative for as long as it takes to be exposed or to be accepted as a lie, and to have those lies mean nothing, as Ash was about to find out. In the end, Ash would in fact fall off. By February, she had reignited her beef with Heffa and used the money from Camilla to stream herself in her hotel room, get drunk into the early hours and rant to anyone that would listen about how Heffa had sniped her biggest donor, prompting her to cry in her eldest daughter's arms about how hard it is to be a single parent while simultaneously reminding Chet that TikTok donations are all she has, whereas Heffa could always fall back on her husband's trucking company if need be.
She has money. Her husband has a trucking company. I have nothing but this. If I don't make money on TikTok, I make nothing for my kids and they can't eat. Okay?
The women would attempt to make up and continue their grift until about the 10th of February, when Ash streamed with Heartbreaky again, dunking on Heffa for flying Spirit, then ranting about how all Heffa had on her was that her kids didn't have
beds. That's all you have on me, Heffa. I've never done anything in front of my kids to get on papers or any kind of arrest.
It's pretty much accepted that Ash was jealous of Heffa ranking well in TikTok live battles, so she decided to lash out, accusing her friend of all sorts of things ranging from not treating her employees well to being fake. Being a fake person, a fake mother, just whatever you can think of.
You're being fake to me, talking about me. The way you talk to your people that work for you, I'd be embarrassed. Show them more respect. Because if not, you're going to be the one out there driving that CDL truck.
Another point of contention is a child endangerment/neglect charge in Heffa's past. According to Heffa, she had been smoking weed in the vicinity of her baby when the police were called. Heffa would claim that she had taken parenting classes from CPS and had served her 2 years probation for that incident.
The bracket that I fell under was abandonment, or you could say neglect. No, abandonment, because I was outside the house when my son was sleeping and I was outside in the front porch chilling with my friend, piffing. Does that not match what I said? Abandonment, 2 years probation. Did I not tell you I did probation? Did I not say that? Convicted of that. And I had to do probation and parenting classes with CPS. Did I not say I did that?
Though originally addressed in November, with Menace to Innis arguing with Heffa over the allegations at the time.
Why are you hiding?
I showed your records! I showed your records! I showed your records!
Like I said, we could go over it. You want to go over it? Let's go over it.
Let's go! Let's go!
Let's go! Looney Tune, I ain't got nothing to hide, fool!
Oh, shut up!
As for the lawsuits, I and my researcher were unable to locate the actual documents and could only find compilations of people on TikTok claiming to possess such records, so take that with a grain of salt. Heffa would eventually go scorched earth on Ashley, calling for Ash's account to be removed from the platform over her comments, and even going as far as to threaten legal action.
So I'm offering to see if you can help me.
She would claim that $500 would be raised in this operation and began to say that all the galaxies donated to her were going into this legal fund.
Some of you that contributed, which those people who sent those galaxies up there, that's for the lawyer fees, which is $500. We need 100K, and so far we only got 42 out of 100. So you guys basically paid like half of it. And I'm gonna give a shout out to everybody who contributed. I'm gonna pay the balance. If anybody else wants to contribute towards the lawyer fees, please do.
This tune would change slightly, however, once Ash's account was taken down and later reinstated. Though Heffa was happy to claim responsibility for the termination, Ash went on to show proof that she was falsely taken down for impersonation. Now, unless I'm totally missing it, to my knowledge, Heffa has never actually shown any adequate proof that the donations have truly been used towards the lawyer fees to go after Ash, instead shifting a lot of her focus towards the beds that Ash Trevino has consistently refused to buy her daughter, showing a photo of their alleged delivery in March.
The mattress, the bed got delivered. Okay? They sent me pictures. I messaged Abby. Boom, I sent them the bed.
Now, of course, Ash claimed this was a lie, calling her a fraud, a fake person, a fake Christian, a fake mom, takes one to know one Ashley, and stating that she had reached out to police and would be pressing charges against Heffa. Why exactly? Well, I sat through this entire 2.5 long video, and I'm sorry to say that she doesn't ever clarify what kind of charges could even be filed. And I'm also unsure why the New Jersey Police Department would be getting involved when no one in this scenario lives in New Jersey. This is some of the most convoluted shit I have ever witnessed, man.
Heffa never sent my kids' beds. She never sent my kids' beds. She's literally a con. She's literally a fake person, a fake Christian, a fake mom. She's not who y'all think she is, you guys.
Regardless, Heffa's deplatforming campaign would eventually involve one final notable player in this messy, horrific saga, an individual by the name of Crystal Borrego, or Smiley, former cast member of 2016's Baddies East, which for those of you who don't know is a reality show that's mainly based on cast members fighting each other.
It ain't a win. Come on.
Not sure if it's as good as the Ray J show, but I will be watching neither. Smiley became involved in early March, after Ash apparently mentioned her name first in a live stream somewhere that I unfortunately could not find. Sorry, this stuff is incredibly hard to track down. But what's important to know right now is that Smiley promised to bring all the smoke Ash's way in a post on her main account.
So since you had so much negative shit to say, because I told my people to come holler at you, just know that I'm gonna bring you all the smoke, I promise you. You better pray to God. You better pray to God. Just know, baby, because I'm not the one to be played with. I'm telling you, I just don't want to say too much, because I heard you play police-ass games, but just know I'm not the one to be played with.
Ash and Smiley would then fight via phone call around March 12th, where Smiley pointed out her poor treatment of her children, calling Ash more of a woman than a mother, and asking her how she sleeps at night knowing how sad her kids look. Ash tries to convince Smiley of her victimhood, but to no avail, trying to paint a picture of a TikTok smear campaign, which falls on deaf ears for Smiley, who says she's still planning on pulling up on her after paying $700 for a flight to Texas before Ash hangs up the phone, at which point she realizes the call is being live streamed. It's hard to believe she wouldn't know that, as Smiley talks to the chat multiple times, but I digress.
Everybody share this live, like the live, bro.
I already have stuff coming up. I have stuff that I'm doing.
Still pulling up on her ass next week, because I booked my flight.
She would also accuse Smiley of sending people to break her windows and spray paint her door, but of course Smiley would not outright confirm any of this was her doing.
Why are you sending people to my house to break my windows?
Listen. Do you not know who I am, Ashley? Do you know I don't care?
I don't know who you are, but at the end of the day, like, why are you sitting there doing that to my place that I pay rent at, that I take care of my kids at?
But Smiley did make good on her original threat, arriving in Ennis, Texas on March 20th and offering her viewers money for Ash's location in the early hours of the 21st.
If y'all know where to find this person, if y'all know her whereabouts, I got some money for y'all, but I need the actual locations, y'all.
During the day, Smiley would pull up with a Chick-fil-A bag to Ash's parents' home, with a note reading, "Ash, I came by, but you weren't here. Love, Smiley." Filming and posting the license plates of Ash's parents along with the house. Shortly thereafter, Smiley went live to discuss her attempt at pulling up, where she implies she had placed a recording device in the Chick-fil-A bag so she could spy on Ash? How are all of these people so fucking psychotic, man.
You know, Smiley, I be going to all the spy stores and figuring out different ways to do certain things. You ain't checked to see what was in the bag, around the bag, on the bottom of the bag. Huh. It's not no poison. You don't know, maybe it's a spy cam. You don't know what it is. Y'all don't know what it is. The door was open.
Meanwhile, Ashwood revealed that her eldest daughter, Haley, had officially moved into her parents' home around February 10th, claiming that Haley is spoiled by her parents so they can look after her while she looks after her seemingly easier preteen instead, defending herself by claiming it's the best decision and that raising teenagers is hard. While listening to a piano rendition of David Guetta's Bulletproof the next day, you very literally cannot make this up.
As much as I miss my baby girl,
it's hard to agree with this woman, but I can't really disagree that Haley living away from Ash is probably for the best. Unfortunately, this wouldn't stop either of the girls from being subjected to their mother's neglect and volatile nature, as evident by her declaration that she'd be missing her daughter's birthday because she had to go to a photo shoot and have a divorce party, apparently.
if I could reschedule, to be honest, I really would, but I can't. Like, I've put this off since January, and it's like, this weekend is the weekend that is the only good time, you know? And then next week is my divorce. So yeah, I'm divorced next week. It's gonna be a busy couple weeks. I'm gonna have a divorce party next weekend.
Still, Ash was more than willing to cultivate some sympathy from her viewers when it came time to leave for the trip, as she talks about crying when her daughter rightly gets upset that her mother is leaving on her birthday.
So here I am, having to pack my bag and telling my little one, me and her were getting food, and I was like, okay, baby, you gotta stay at grandma's again tonight. She texted me earlier and she was like, I miss you. And then I started crying, like, real bad.
Then changing tune to it not being a big deal that she wasn't there, saying she only went to Haley's last birthday because it was her sweet 16.
Going to Haley's B-Day but not Evie's. Okay, first off, you need to understand, the only reason I have to have Haley a party is because there is something that I agreed on. And it is her sweet 16.
The constant bickering with her daughters wasn't about to slow down though, with Ash streaming an argument she'd have with Haley after she blocked her on TikTok.
Unblock me now, Haley.
No.
Now.
No.
Okay, well then we'll figure out how we're gonna pay your phone bill. Okay?
A job.
Bien. Vale más que te pasivos, ¿eh?
Don't be trying to act all Spanish.
Vale más que te pasivos, ¿eh?
Then afterwards shouting at her children for coming to their mother's house because she doesn't like opening the door, saying her kids are supposedly outside before they have to call her to be let into the home.
This is why I don't like when people show up, because my kids are supposedly outside and I don't know if it's really them. They're like, Mom, it's me. It's me.
You're fucking lying right now.
Why are y'all doing that? Y'all know I don't like to open the door.
Ashley's usual oversharing about her daughter's medical history is also still going strong, with Haley needing to go to the hospital on April 10th and Ash deciding to stream about her anxieties rather than staying with her child in the hospital, weekly coughing and claiming sickness of her own as a way to excuse not showing up for her children.
Right now, my daughter's at the hospital, so she's not here. I'm just like, so I'm out of it right now. Okay, so if I look like a bitch, I'm sorry. Okay? My mom took her to the hospital. I didn't go because I'm sick as well, and I don't want to be there coughing, and you know, so my mom is the one that took her. And then I have Evie. Evie's here with me.
The safety of her youngest child, if she does indeed live there most of the time, must be called into question though, as with Ashley's address being leaked, watchers have been able to go and vandalize their home, with one occasion on March 6th of someone allegedly egging her car, intensifying around March 8th as she shows graffiti on their front door and a smashed window, which was the stunt she had accused Smiley of orchestrating. But regardless of all the chaos, Ashley's love life has finally taken a back seat. Although she insisted her divorce from Noe Trevino had been finalized on February 22nd, she's apparently decided to hold on to the name as it's now inseparable from her brand. Ash has also begun to court Santos once more, now firm in her knowledge that he is in fact just 20 years old. Ash left one comment on his live from March where she says she misses him and later called him around March 16th, referring to him as Daddy Santos and demanding he fly her out, repeatedly calling him Papi and saying that she loves him.
I don't have a boyfriend. Let me call Daddy Santos. Papi, what are you doing, my love? Daddy, what are you doing? I love you, Papi. I love you, Santos. Am I gonna fly out there or what?
The steam at the Ash Trevino content mill has sort of run out by this point. There is only so many times a lol cow can be milked before people finally become sick of the milk. Her most recent stab at attention has been announcing a pregnancy on April 20th, posting this image of a positive pregnancy test and an ultrasound with her first name listed first. Since Ash was so kind as to pull this little stunt on the last day of scripting this video, I want to remind you all once more that every ultrasound on the planet has the last name first, and you can't convince me that this countertop is the same as the one in this photo. I am completely and utterly losing my mind. This shit is becoming too much for even me. Let's just end it here and try to wrap this thing up. Somewhere buried in the digital footprint of Ash Trevino is a conversation around the changing nature and impact of internet infamy. A dislikable woman sitting in her car deciding to join the prison wife community because her daughter was doing decent numbers on a platform in and of itself is not worth the numbers and celebrity status she garnered. Even in the true crime world, the women who go after criminals are often side characters to the case at hand. Ash was able to not only gain notoriety, but taste the high life through her use of violent criminals as content. While the tea-hungry masses were happy to tune in every night to watch her play through these pseudo-passionate relationships as if it were a perverse kind of soap opera where one woman is actively worsening her life and humiliating and neglecting her children in the process. I mean, to the people watching at home, it sort of qualifies as entertainment, I guess. The drunken fights with her friends and family broke up the many minutes of her life just sitting on her phone. The easiest label to put on a woman like Ash Trevino is lolcow. I just did a few minutes ago. But the demographics of people that are engaging in this content milking behavior are starting to shift. When my researcher wrote her dissertation on the topic a year ago, she focused on Kiwi Farms and the way that stalking and harassing individuals like Chris Chan or Daniel Larson to milk content out of them was part of the game. Finding out where they were living or traveling to in the name of keeping people safe and ensuring they weren't going too far out of line was a part of a performance of moral and intellectual superiority that drove this harassing behavior. In a startlingly short period of time, it seems the lolcow phenomenon has expanded to a more passive experience, not hidden in forum sites or subreddits, but instead lurking out in the open as tea pages, who mine content into clips that can be turned into controversy to garner a response that produces even more clips. This, in turn, only contributes to the trivialization of many of the issues that we've touched on today. Whether it's Ashley's treatment of her daughters or her attitude toward the victims of the dangerous men she courts, as many clips as there are talking about these serious allegations, there are memes about the aroma of her genitals and crude comments about her weight. Maybe this was always to be expected, considering the strong ideological frameworks concerning hate speech and the treatment of criminals we've built into the subculture, but the makeup of those following the Ash Trevino universe are lunch break scrollers rather than basement dwellers. The expansion of this cognitive dissonance both in the avid following of Ash and the acceptance of ridiculing her as if it will force her into changing her life for the better is worrying. It speaks to a growing passiveness within digital culture that a certain level of heinousness is acceptable so long as it's engaging enough to deserve our attention, so long as it makes a passing user feel superior without challenging them to step in, so long as it can be swiped away and replaced with something else less serious immediately conveniently so that the watcher doesn't need to dwell too hard. The one saving grace of the Ash Trevino story is that her children were older when their mother rose to online infamy. Luckily, they didn't have to grow up with this as their normal and can at least enjoy some degree of autonomy that allows them to stay with their grandparents, far away from the prying eyes of the internet. Still, the Ash's profile will always have some kind of effect on her family. Haley's TikTok, hovering at around 2 million followers, undoubtedly has something to do with her mother's rise in the streaming world. Unfortunately, the frame of reference that Ash's children will get to enjoy is not going to be afforded to many of the other children in this story, in particular that of the MILF house. This video was supposed to go into detail about the Brianna custody battle, the rings of content houses, and the children used to bolster them. I wasn't planning on splitting this video into two, but it looks like the perpetual crisis of Ash Trevino has eclipsed everything else that we could have gotten into. Rest assured, another video is on its way. And with that, I'm done rambling. Thanks for watching, thanks to Incogni, thanks to my editors and my researcher. Follow my Twitter, and remember, every day is a perfect day to go touch grass without streaming it on TikTok.
Know how it smell? As Santos, he know it smell well.
What the
Work together, guys. Work together. That's how my song goes, you guys.
My mom says she's blocking you. Jeff.